Tools. I should have gotten one ready, but geometry
Dancing
line
mannequin
brushes.
then.
Yes, Sayuri will dance to entertain while I look for the brush. I think this one should be okay. There we go. So let me see. So this is, yeah, this looks pretty visible on the camera. So just to kind of give you like an idea, consider, you know, let me actually make this a little bit bigger. So consider like, you know, this is Unity. Oh, it might be glowing a little bit too much. Let's consider like, you know, this is Unity. And like, you know, have like Unity stuff, you know, there's like, you know, whatever it's doing. And then within Unity, we have Froox engine. So this is, you know, Froox engine. So right now, because Unity, Froox engine is contained within Unity, is using Unity's runtime to run its code. It's using the Mono. The Mono framework, it's very old, and it's kind of slow, which is why we kind of want to move Froox engine to .NET 9, because we were originally saying .NET 8, but I think it was like this week or last week a .NET 9 release, so we're going to target that one. But the problem we have right now, like, you know, to do the move, there's like two systems where there's sort of like a hybrid. So Froox engine, most of the stuff, most of like all the interactions, all the scripting, networking, physics, you know, interactions, most of it's like fully contained within Froox engine. So like, you know, we don't have to like worry about it. That's already kind of nicely contained. But then, what we have, there's like two systems which are sort of like a hybrid. They kind of like exist on both sides, and it's particle system. So we have a particle system, and the second one is sound system. So what the overall goal is like we want to take like these systems and rework them into completely custom ones so they're fully contained within Froox engine. Once that kind of happens, there's also like, you know, interaction with like all the Unity stuff. And right now that's also kind of like, you know, like where this goes this, you know, this goes here, this goes here. It's kind of like, it's messy. So like once we move both of these systems full into Froox engine, we're gonna rework how Froox engine actually communicates with Unity. So it's sort of like, you know, a much simpler pipe where it almost like, you know, it sends like a very self-contained kind of like package and be like, render this stuff for me, please. Once this is done, what we can do is we can take this entire thing, and I kind of grab it like at the same time, but we essentially move this out of Unity into its own process that's gonna be net 9, and this is gonna, you know, communicate with Unity using that same process. And is this switching to like the much modern net 9 runtime, that's gonna provide a big performance like uplift. The reason for that is because net 9, it has a much better JIT compiler. That's essentially the component that takes, you know, our code and it translates it into like machine code that your CPU runs. And the one that's in net 9 produces like at least an order of magnitude like better code. It also has better, like more optimized libraries that are part of like net framework that are being used, and also much better garbage collector, which is another thing like on the Unity side that's slowing things down. We've already done a thing where for the headless client, we've moved it to .NET 8 like a few months back, because with the headless client you don't have the render, which means it already exists outside of Unity. That made it much easier to actually move it, you know, to the modern .NET runtime. And the headless client, it's pretty much like, you know, it's still this. It's the same code. Like, it's not a separate thing from, you know, what we're running right now. Like 99% of the code is the same. So by moving it first, we were able to see how much of a big performance uplift we actually get. What we found, and we've had like a number of kind of community events that have been hosting kind of big events, we've been able to get like way more people on those headlesses. Even with those headlesses, computing everybody's avatars, computing everybody's, IK and dynamic bones, while still maintaining like a pretty high frame rate. So thanks to that, we are confident that moving the graphical client to .NET 9 is gonna give us a really good performance upgrade. The only problem is, it's a little bit more complicated process because we do have to rework those systems, and we have to rework the integration before we can move it out. This is also a little bit tangential, but one of the things, once this kind of happens, once we move it out, we can actually replace Unity with Sauce, which is going to be our custom rendering engine. And this whole process, it makes it easier because we have this very nicely defined way to communicate between the two, which means we can actually eat this away, and put Sauce in here instead. As to where we are right now. So right now, if I move this back, I'll move this back. We have the sound here. There we go. So right now, the sound system is still hybrid. The communication with Unity is still kind of messy. There's a lot of kind of roots into everything, and the particle system is being reworked. So we're essentially taking this and moving it in here. We are working on a new particle system called photon dust. The work has been kind of progressing over the past few weeks. It's actually getting close to feature parity with the current system, which is a hybrid between Unity and Froox engine. Because the goal is we don't want to break any content. We want to make sure that whatever we've built with existing particle system still works and looks the same, or at least very close to what it's supposed to look. Most of the things are already implemented. If you go into devlog in our Discord, you can see some of the updates and some of the progress. The main thing that's missing right now as a major system is implementing our own system for particle trails. Once that's done, it's possible this is gonna be sometime next week. I don't want to make any promises because things happen, but it is getting close to there. We're gonna actually release public builds where you have both systems at the same time. So you're gonna have the legacy system and photon dust. With conversion being something you trigger manually. We'll run a bunch of tests with the community, so we'll essentially ask you to, test your content, test the new system, find any bugs with it. Once we are confident, that it works okay, we are gonna essentially remove the old system, and we make the conversion automatic to the new system. With that, this part is gonna be done, and we're gonna move on to this sound part. The sound system is essentially what handles stuff like audio spatialization and so on. Right now it's also a hybrid. So for example, on Froox engine side, we do our own audio encoding and decoding. Unity is not handling that, but what we're doing is we're feeding Unity the audio data we want to play into individual sources, and Unity then handles spatialization and then outputting it to your audio device. We're going to move that part into our own system, which is also what's going to allow us to take control of it and build new features, like for example having multiple listeners. And we're also going to move the system here. There's actually some work on this that Sarah's been working on that I've kind of asking for help with, because one of the things in the system is a reverb effect. And we essentially need to implement our own because there's also a thing that's currently handled by Unity. And Syro has made integration with a reverb called the Zeta reverb that we're gonna use to replace the existing kind of reverb zones. I don't.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that part?
Yeah. So we found a nifty little. So let me actually back up a little bit. So currently, the reason why we can't just keep using this reverb or whatever, the one that we're using right now, is because it uses Unity's, but in turn the underlying reverb uses is it Fmod or something?
Yes.
And that costs at least $4 signs to use commercially, I think. But we found a nifty library called SoundPipe that includes a really nice sounding reverb effect. And I have been working on getting the library compiled and integrating it with Froox engine. You won't be able to do anything like super duper fancy with it right away, and at least not until Froox reworks the whole audio system. But you'll at least be able to process like audio clips with it and make them sound all echoey and stuff just to like try it out, which I think will be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because then you could like just reverbify any audio clip in game.
Yeah.
Like you can make a reverb baker, essentially, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like expand like the audio processing, because you can already do like some like trimming. You can do like normalization, volume adjustments, like fading and so on. So like this is just having that code like integrated and ready. We can already kind of like expose some of it to let you play with it and like make essentially sort of tools that can spin off of it before like we do the big integration. But yes, like right now the particle system is the major one that's gonna be fully pulled in. Once that part is done, we're gonna do the sound system, which I expect to be faster than the particle system because it doesn't have like as many things, but we'll see how that one goes. Once the sound systems happens, this is gonna get reworked, integration with Unity, so it's simpler. And once this is done, we move the whole thing out, and it's gonna be the big performance update. So I hope that it kind of helps like answer. It helps answer kind of the question.